Hey guys, what's up? I just got smacked in the face. What's up? Bring me the boa here. And today we're going to be talking about taking your pets to the vet. Now this one was requested by a viewer. And now a lot of you, when you associate with the vet, usually dogs. Here, let me... Yeah. Dogs. Let me get that out of the way. You usually associate your furry pets, like your dogs, your gerbils, your hamsters, but usually your dogs and your cats. Which, now that he wanted to come in here, and now I think he doesn't want to be in here. But, there you go, little bug. But, going out? Okay. Thank you, Fruit Loop. That was my pug. He actually did help me kind of prove a point that we usually associate the vet with our furry friends. Not going to be like biased or anything, but most people I haven't heard of really taking their fish or anything like that to the vet. Not saying it doesn't happen, but most vets specialize in mammalian care and a little bit of avian, so birds. Now, I had a viewer. I looked like I was about to drop a bombshell like this, and then I was like, turns out I was really just covering up that hiccup thing I get. But a viewer had asked, how do I take my snakes to the vet? Now, to you, I'm sorry this took so long. A bunch of personal stuff happened, but because of that, I'm going to be uploading it the day I film, which is I've never done. But and making it public, I'll specify that as well. So it'll be going up May 9th, even though this was requested, I think, back in March. I'm awful. I'm sorry. I got all the information that is going to be in this video to you in the comments, which I don't know if I can link that video's comment section under this one. I don't think I can. But I thought that this was well deserving of its own video. So I'm going to pretty much describe how I've taken my pet snakes. Now, these are guidelines from me, who's someone who's generally inexperienced with multiple species of snakes. So this is how I take my hognoses to the vet, and some ways of how you can take a ball python to the vet. Now, a lot of snakes fall under the categories of those sizes, but it also kind of depends: venomous, non-venomous, fanged or not fanged, rear fanged, front fanged, a lot of different things. So, to start this off, now I know not everyone's going to have these, but I think this is burlap. I don't really know. It's a sack. It's a sack that you put stuff in. Now, if you've ever bought a reptile online, specifically a snake, I know it is very common for ball pythons that have been shipped online to come in bags, very much akin to this one. Now, my mom and I bought a bunch of these in the preparation for the Florida trip, for if we find any interesting snakes that are worth keeping. Now, we still have all of these, but as you saw in the Florida video, we didn't really see any snakes, and none that were really worth keeping, collecting, and transporting across several state lines. So we never got to use any of these for that. I do want to say we used a couple of them that we had before then for alligator lizards. That would be a good species to get a video on. Gotta put a pin in that. But these bags are very, very helpful in transporting snakes because, and I will show you in a sec, Argenta is going to be our beautiful model for the day. She pooped. She literally just pooped. I just cleaned these cages yesterday. Hi. So because she's one of my bigger hog noses, and is also very light colored. Ooh, I should have picked Todoroki for this because he's contrasting. My male tricolor, I should have picked him. He has reds and whites and blacks in contrast. Really well with the bat, you make it very apparent where he is. But So what I've done in the past is I've had my bag. I simply just put my snake in the bag, and it really is just that simple for transporting. Now, I live in Arizona. Arizona is very warm. Because of this, I don't have to worry about my snake getting cold in the bag. I need to worry about them overheating. So, some of these struggles and some of this advice is not going to be applicable for the eastern half of the country, or anyone who does not live in a warm climate that may be watching. Sorry, Todoroki's moving around over there a lot, and it's mesmerizing because I see all the bands. But, so what you want to do to ensure your snake can't get out is you take the cord of the bag and leave a little bit of space under the top, and you tie it around like this. Now this was a visual I couldn't really show or really figure out how to describe in the comments that I gave, but that is what you do. And then you can take, if yours has a knot like this in the string, just simply tuck it under one of the other previous spun around strings, or this would be more of like a rope, but tuck it under there, keeps it wrapped around very tightly. This is a secondary measure, one that I had to learn transporting Cheerio and Todoroki from Florida to here during my Florida trip. Because that is when I bought both of them, was in Florida. It was in Kissimmee, Florida. And Todoroki wasn't an issue. We had him in a bin. We had bins prepared for in case we found hog noses, which we didn't find, and we bought one. But, Cheerio, on the other hand, we keep him in a bin at night with a book on top. Specifically, conveniently enough, I have it on my table, this book. Because it is heavy, to prevent him from poking the lid off. The last thing we wanted was a snake getting out in our hotel room, because we did not specify that we had pets, because at the time of us making the reservations, we weren't planning on bringing anything with us except for hog noses that were wild caught, which would have been easy to hide. But a ball python and a bright tricolored hog nose are not easy to conceal, because they are both very, very different colors from a lot of what was in the bins. We were acting like the bins had clothes in them. So, yeah. Not that we necessarily broke any rules, but we just didn't want anyone getting worried that we had snakes. But that was a long tangent. But anyways, so we transported... Oh, that's why I went on the tangent, was to explain why I knotted up like this. He got out in the car once, out of his bag, and I went to check on him and realized he wasn't in the bag. I want to say we were in Texas at the time, on our way back, and I had realized that, and I was devastated. I thought he might have gotten out at a truck stop, and he's just as good as dead, because people in Texas either really love their snakes or they really hate them. I have never really heard of anyone in between. So, I thought he was dead. In all honesty, that was my immediate thought, was he got out, he's dead, he's gone. Then I ended up finding, actually I have the exact shoe. There's a whole meme now where I can be like, there was a snake in my boot. But in reality, there was a snake in my Vans. It was this shoe. It was my left shoe. It was in the back of the car, and it was warm because I was just wearing those shoes, and I switched them into comfier shoes. And he decided to take a nap in there, and he popped his little head out while we were on the side of the freeway looking for him in the car. He just decided to go, oh, hello. And since then, I've always made sure I had this tied. And even right now, Argenta is up in this top half of the bag. So that is why I cannot stress enough that the knotting, is important. You do not want your snake getting out in transit before it's meant to get out at the vet. And potentially if they have to keep it overnight, which if they keep it overnight in a bag, I don't know if there's any ethical things about that or not. I'm sure there are, but you don't want the snake getting out. This is also applicable to shipping reptiles. you don't want to risk your snake getting out. Argenta, like I showed off when I was unboxing, there was tape on the lid to keep her in there, which also... Tangent. I know, sorry, but this was the cup she came in. She is way too big to fit in here now. Sorry. But back to the topic. So, knotting this, very important. Now, if you were in a hot state like Arizona, I cannot stress enough having the air conditioning on in your car. Now, to some of you, this might be like a, well, duh. But to other people, they might have not thought of that. Another thing that I cannot stress enough is do not let the bag or the container that you have them in sunlight. Now, you can bring them to the vent in deli cups. This one doesn't have a lid, so we're gonna put that back. Valentine's. Oof, that almost knocked me over. But, see this? Keep this out of direct sunlight if there's a snake in here. I cannot stress that enough because I was reassessing how Osiris, my very first Western Hognose, passed. And I do not believe anymore that it was due to salt. Salt probably played a factor, but I think it was a fact. Even though my air conditioning was on, even though he wasn't in direct sunlight, only half of the not Tupperware, the deli cup was in the sunlight. I do believe that the heat increase contributed to him expiring sooner than he was supposed to. And that is completely on me, and that was a beginner mistake. And I don't want anyone to ever have to go through that again. So I am putting that out there. This is actually really funny. Hold on. She's digging. She's trying to dig. Oh, is she going to stop? Oh, there it is. See, it looks really funny. But I cannot stress this enough. Anyways, back to seriousness, back to the point. I cannot stress this enough. Do not let any of the container that they're in into sunlight, into direct sunlight. Even though it was partial, I do believe that it increased the heat enough to cause him to expire sooner than he was supposed to. And I'm saying expire because saying it how normal people would say it makes me very sad. So, and it is also more medicinally correct to say expire. But please, like, and this also goes for if you bought something at an expo or something like that. If you're just transporting a snake in general somewhere, and they're in a cup or in a bag, do not let it into direct sunlight. More so with these, because the air, there's not going to be airflow. With the bag, at least, it'll be corrected a little. She's digging in the corner of the bag again. But it'll get corrected a little bit in the bag because it is at least breathable. This is plastic. Plastic is not breathable, hence why there has to be air holes in it. And even then at expos, people don't always put their air holes in. So, please, do not forget that. That is a lesson I want to get to everybody. Because heat kills fast. And once something goes into heat shock, it is very difficult to bring it back out. But anyways, back away from the transit thing. Once I got to the vet with Azura, this is just from my experiences with Azura and an exotic vet based in Arizona. Essentially, I had her in the bag on my person the whole time. Didn't open the bag until they needed to inspect her and see her and take samples, because in that case they were taking fecal and blood samples. And then I put it right in the bag, and it was the same thing, back and forth. Now this again is for a small colubrid, which is what most snakes are in North America. In North America, a lot of them you'll see in the pet trade are colubrids. King snakes, gopher snakes, rat snakes, bull snakes, pine snakes, hog noses. Ball pythons aren't. They're a constrictor. But, well, they're a python. Let me put it that way, because gopher snakes and bull snakes are constrictors as well. Just not to the same necessary degree, if that makes sense. Their body shapes are different. I'll get into that in another video. But mainly the main thing that I gotta stress, and I can't stress enough, is the transport part. Now, I've shown you what the bag looks like. I've shown you that you can bring in a deli cup. Now, if you are a person who keeps your snakes in bins, which I am, because it is easiest and most efficient for me, and that's my personal preference, you can, in fact, just bring the bin. Snake whole habitat included. Now, did I do that? No. Reason why? I have loose bedding, and I don't want to risk, like, if I end up turning too sharply, that everything just goes over to one side of the cage. That's the last thing I want, because it's just going to kind of cause a major disruption to my snake and its habitat and what it's used to. So I didn't do that. But that's not to say other people can't. And that was more so just because I had never driven to that vet before. I didn't know what the roads were going to be like. I didn't know what the speed limits on the roads were going to be. So, and I also know I had to go on the freeway. So I didn't want to risk any upheaval in her habitat. So that's why I didn't do that. But just because I didn't doesn't mean you can't. Now, for larger snakes, like ball pythons, full-grown ball pythons, obviously Hercules, who is 5.5 feet long, is not going to fit into this bag. How I've transported her places is quite simple. And the same premise as this. It is a pillowcase. For those of you who, and that's what I was going to get at earlier, but I kind of pushed it off until I got to the bigger snakes. For those of you who have larger snake species that, of course, are not venomous, like anything more than mildly venomous, and who don't have fangs that can pierce through this, or cloth for that matter, you can take larger snakes in pillowcases. It works effectively. I never had any issue transporting her anywhere. I've transported Cheerio a couple of times via pillowcase now that he's getting too chunky for one of these. So it's respectively a very good method if you don't want to have to go out of your way to buy these, because it's something that everyone has. Now this one is something I can immediately see someone going, oh, bags are fine. Please don't put your snake in a plastic bag, like any kind of plastic bag. Now, yeah, these are plastic containers, but the thing is they have a conformed shape, but they also got air holes. Now, many plastic bags they conform, like the shapes conform to what they are touching. And they'll kind of wrap around, and they don't have air holes. So, for those of you who can see where I'm going with this, big brain time. For those of you who can't, they'll suffocate. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. They will suffocate. Like Ziploc bags, grocery bags. These are all things I could see someone going, oh, well, he said bags are fine. Or I've seen people transport them in bags. I don't see why a plastic bag would be any different. Obviously, you can't poke holes in a plastic bag, because most plastic bags, once there's a hole, they rip super easy, therefore defeating the whole purpose of the snake being in the bag. So don't use plastic bags. It will kill your snake. Don't use it for any animal for that matter. It will kill your animal, except for a fish. Fish are fine because they need to be in water. Plastic bags hold water really well. But for anything else, don't use a plastic bag. All this was more so just about transporting, and that was a good crack. Not putting your animals in direct sunlight. In colder states, on the other hand, don't let your animal get too cold. Now, on average, a lot more of the American colubrids are more forgiving to cold than heat, is what I've heard. Based on other YouTubers that I watch, as well as other articles I've read and reviews of people talking about their shipment experiences and stuff like that. Reptiles are more forgiving of cold than heat, because you can bring snakes back up to room temperature fairly easy by just letting them sit, and they won't get sent into shock necessarily. Like, they obviously, cold shock is a thing and heat shock is a thing. But from what I've heard, it is easier to sort of bring back snakes from the brink that are cold rather than hot. And that is just what I've heard. Do I have personal experience with cold snakes? No. I will say that now. I do not. So if any of you have experience with that, put it in the comments and I will totally reshoot this video, make an addendum. Or I'll just shoot an addendum, like 2 or 3 minute thing added to this. But that's pretty much it, in all honesty. I'm not going to cover venomous because I genuinely have no clue how you would transport those. And if you're keeping venomous snakes, you don't need to be watching my content because you're more than likely already very well versed in husbandry. Well, I shouldn't say that. You may be well versed in certain husbandries, so I guess there's some content that would be interesting because it'd be different types of animals. But if you're already to the level of venomous and you didn't skip steps and just immediately shoot to venomous, you'd probably know how to transport them better than I would at this point. So that's why I'm not covering venomous right now, is both because anyone in the audience has had experience with venomous, I would take their opinion over mine because I have no experience, which is reason number 2. So that's pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, and tune in for the next video, which don't know which one it's going to be, but hopefully it'll be a banger.